In this lesson, we're going to discuss addition and subtraction of monomials. Let's start with addition. You can only add two monomials if they have the same base and the same exponent. So they need to have the same base and the same exponent. If you have two monomials with the same base and the same exponent and you want to add them, then what do? You add their coefficients. So let's look at an example. Let's say I have x and I want to add 2x. Do they have the same base? The base of this one is x. The base of this one is also x. Do they have the same exponent? The exponent of the first one is 1. The exponent of the second one is 1. So they have the same base and the same exponent. That is check. We can do that. We are able to add them now. So now what do? We add their coefficients. So the coefficient of the first one is 1, because when there's no coefficient and no exponent, it's automatically assumed to be a 1. So when we're adding these two terms, we're adding 1x plus 2x, and we're getting 3x because we added their two coefficients. We added the 1 and the 2. So we added the coefficients. That is how you do addition of two monomials. Let's try another example. Let's say I have 4x cubed plus 24x cubed. Do they have the same base? The base of the first one is x. The base of the second one is x. Do they have the same exponent? The exponent of the first one is 3. The exponent of the second one is 3. So we can add their coefficients. 28x cubed. We add the coefficients, the base stays the same, and the exponent stays the same. Now let's try another example. Let's say I have 4x squared plus 3x. Can I add these? Do they have the same base? Yes, they both have a base of x. Do they have the same exponent? They do not have the same exponent. The exponent of the first one is a 2. The exponent of the second one, it doesn't have one, so we assume that it's a 1. Therefore, they do not have the same exponent and they cannot be added, so this has to remain a binomial. 4x squared plus 3x. We cannot add these two terms. Let's try one last example. Let's say I have 4x squared plus 3y squared. Do they have the same base? They do not have the same base. The base of the first one is x. The base of the second one is y. Even though they have the same exponent, we cannot add them. They have to remain a binomial because they do not have the same bases, even though they have the same exponents. We cannot add these, and this remains a binomial. Let's move on to subtraction of monomials. When you subtract monomials, just like when you add monomials, you can only add if they have the same base and the two terms have the same exponent. If you have two terms with the same base and the same exponent and you want to subtract them, then what you do is you keep the base, you keep the exponent because they're the same, and you just subtract the coefficients. Let's look at an example. Let's say I have 4x squared minus 6x squared. Do they have the same base? They both have a base of x. Do they have the same exponent? They both have an exponent of 2. So we can subtract them. This becomes we subtract their coefficients. 4 minus 6 is negative 2. Keep the base, keep the exponent. Negative 2x squared is the answer. Let's try another example. Let's say I have 24y cubed minus 3y cubed. Can we subtract these two terms? Do they have the same base? They both have a base of y, so they have the same base. Do they have the same exponent? They both have an exponent of 3, so they have the same exponent. Now what we just have to do is subtract the coefficients, keep the base, and keep the exponents. 24 minus 3 is 21. Keep the base, keep the exponent, 21y cubed is the answer. Let's try another example. Let's say we have 12y squared minus 12x squared. Can we subtract these two terms? Do they have the same base? The base of the first one is y. The base of the second one is x. These cannot be subtracted because they do not have the same base. Even though they have the same exponent, they both have an exponent of 2. They cannot be subtracted. They have to remain a binomial because they do not have the same base. One last example. Let's say we had 12x cubed minus 14x squared. Do they have the same base? They both have a base of x. Do they have the same exponent? The first one has an exponent of 3. The second one has an exponent of 2. They do not have the same exponent, therefore they cannot be subtracted. So this remains a binomial of 12x cubed minus 14x squared. They cannot be subtracted. It has to stay a binomial.